My fiancé sold me for $50 million, so I married the powerful Korean Mafia boss for revenge. The Mensah mansion smelled of expensive lilies and old lies. Zara Baloyi smoothed the fabric of her emerald silk dress, the weight of the 3-carat diamond on her finger feeling like a promise of forever. She had come early to surprise Fazle, but the silence in the hallway was heavy, punctured only by the rhythmic clink of ice against glass. She stopped at the heavy oak door of the study. It wasn't fully closed. "It's a simple transaction, Samuel," a woman's voice cut through the air. "Victoria Park. The Dragon of the East. Your company is $50 million in debt. My daughter needs a husband with a legacy. Your son has the pedigree, and I have the capital." Zara's breath hitched. She leaned closer, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the sliver of the door, she saw Fazle. He looked small, hunched over the mahogany desk. "And Zara?" Fazle's voice was a whisper. Victoria laughed, a sound like dry leaves. "The South African girl? A beautiful distraction, nothing more. She doesn't have the lineage to sit at my table." $50 million, Fazle. "Sign, and your family stays in the penthouse. Refuse, and you'll be out on the street by morning." Zara waited. She prayed for Fazle to roar. To tell them that her brilliance as an architect, her 3 years of devotion, and their shared dreams were worth more than a check. Instead, Fazle picked up the gold fountain pen. He didn't even look at Zara's photograph, which lay discarded on the desk like a piece of trash. With a steady hand, he signed. The sound of the pen on paper was the loudest thing Zara had ever heard. It was the sound of her life being deleted. Zara stumbled back, her vision blurring. She didn't just feel heartbroken, she felt invisible. As she turned to flee, she slammed into a wall of solid heat. A man stood there, hidden in the shadows of the corridor. He was tall, dressed in a suit that seemed to absorb the light. "Careful, Miss Baloyi," he whispered, his voice a deep, vibrating baritone. "The floor is slippery with broken promises tonight." Zara looked up into eyes that felt like a predator's, sharp, dark, and terrifyingly intelligent. He wasn't like the Mensahs. He carried an aura of absolute, silent power. "Who are you?" she gasped, trying to pull away. His grip on her shoulders was firm but strangely grounding. "Dae-hyun. Though in this house, they call me that a mistake. I believe you know me as Fazle's uncle. The long-lost uncle. The one who had been exiled to Korea decades ago." The man the Mensahs spoke of in hushed, fearful tones. "You saw," she accused, tears finally spilling over. "I saw a lioness being sold by sheep," Dae-hyun said, his thumb brushing a tear from her cheek. The touch sent a jolt of electricity through her that she wasn't ready for. "But the question is, Zara, are you going to run away and cry, or are you going to make them bleed?" Before she could answer, the study door swung open. Fazle stood there, looking flushed. He froze when he saw Zara. Behind him, Victoria and Samuel emerged like vultures. "Zara. What are you doing here?" Fazle stammered, his eyes darting to the contract in his hand. Zara didn't look at the boy she had loved. She looked at the man holding her shoulders. Dae-hyun didn't let go. In fact, he pulled her slightly closer, a silent claim. "She's here to witness the end of an era, Fazle," Dae-hyun said, his voice dripping with cold silk. "Dae-hyun?" Samuel gasped, turning pale. "What are you doing in this country? You were never supposed to return." Dae-hyun smiled, and it was the most dangerous thing Zara had ever seen. "I came to collect a debt. And it seems I found something much more valuable than money." Victoria Park stepped forward, her eyes scanning Zara with disdain. "So, this is the girl. Well, Miss Baloyi, since you've overheard, let's be adults. Fazle has duties. I'll have my assistant wire you $1 million. For your inconvenience." The word inconvenience snapped something inside Zara. The woman of faith, the hard-working architect who built skyscrapers, was gone. In her place was a woman who had nothing left to lose. Zara reached out and grabbed a crystal glass from a passing server's tray. With a flick of her wrist, she hurled it against the marble wall. Crash. The room went silent. $1 million? Zara walked toward Victoria, her emerald dress shimmering like a serpent's scales. I designed the Neo Towers. I saved this company's reputation while your son spent his allowance on sports cars. You think I'm a servant you can tip? She turned to Fazle. He looked pathetic. You signed it, she said, her voice a deadly calm. You sold 3 years for a bailout. Zara, I had to. She ripped the engagement ring off. You didn't have to. You chose to. She dropped the ring. It didn't bounce, it landed with a dull thud in the spilled champagne. Keep your money, Victoria. You're going to need every cent when I'm finished with you. She turned to leave, but Dae-hyun was already at the door, holding it open for her like a queen. As they walked out into the biting night air, Zara's legs began to shake. I have nowhere to go, she whispered. My firm, the Mensahs, own the building. They'll lock me out by morning. Dae-hyun stopped her at the gates. He pulled out a silver-embossed card. I own the 3 buildings surrounding yours. And as of 10 minutes ago, I bought the debt on your firm's mortgage. You don't work for them anymore, Zara. You work for yourself. But if you want the world, you'll marry me. Zara stared at the card. Dae-hyun Kang. CEO, Aegis Global Shipping. You're insane, she breathed. I don't even know you. I know you, he countered, stepping into her personal space. The scent of sandalwood and expensive tobacco enveloped her. I sat in the back of your keynote in London. I watched you defend your designs in Dubai. You build structures that can survive hurricanes. I need that strength at my side. You want a trophy wife to spite your brother, she spat. No, he said, his eyes darkening with a sudden, raw intensity. I want a partner. I am the Ghost King, Zara. I have enemies on 3 continents and more money than God. But I am alone. My brother stole my birthright, and now he's stealing your soul. Marry me, and tomorrow, you are the most powerful woman in the Southern Hemisphere. And the catch? There is no catch. Only a contract. 1 year. We crush the Mensahs. We humiliate Victoria Park. And then, if you want to leave, you leave with half of my South African assets. Zara looked back at the mansion. She could see Fazle through the window, already pouring another drink, already moving on. What about the bedroom? She asked, her voice trembling. Dae-hyun leaned down, his lips inches from her ear. I am a man of my word. I will never touch you unless you beg me to. But Zara. He paused, his voice dropping to a gravelly low. I think you'll find that I am a very difficult man to resist. Her phone buzzed in her hand. A text from Fazle. I'm sorry. We can still see each other on the side. Melissa doesn't have to know. Zara's eyes turned to ice. She looked at Dae-hyun. Where do I sign? The ceremony took place at 4 a.m. in a private courthouse. There were no flowers, no music, only the scratching of pens. Zara wore a cream suit, her hair pulled back in a sleek, defiant bun. When the magistrate asked for the rings, Dae-hyun produced a band of black diamonds. A mark of our alliance, he murmured as he slid it onto her finger. When it came time for the kiss, Zara braced herself. She expected something cold, a mere formality. Instead, Dae-hyun took her face in his large, warm hands. His kiss was slow, possessive, and tasted of dark promise. It wasn't a business deal, it was a declaration of war. He whisked her away to a penthouse that defied gravity. Floor-to-ceiling glass. Overlooked the city she had helped build. Your wing is to the left, he said, handing her a glass of vintage wine. My staff has already moved your things from your apartment. Your office is being remodeled as we speak. You move fast, she said, feeling a strange flutter in her chest. In my world, speed is survival. He walked to the window. Tomorrow, the news will break. The Mensahs think they've secured their future with Victoria's $50 million. They don't know that I've just shorted their stock. As Zara turned to go to her room, she saw a file on the coffee table. It was labeled, Project Revelation. She opened it and gasped. It wasn't just business data. It was photos of Fazle and Melissa Park, dated 6 months ago. He hadn't been forced into this. He had been cheating for half a year. The betrayal was deeper than she thought. Fazle hadn't just sold her, he had been planning her exit. The next morning, Zara didn't wake up as a victim. She woke up as a predator. She walked into the kitchen to find Dae-hyun cooking. He wore a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and a glimpse of a tattoo, a dragon's tail disappearing under his cuff. You look like you want to kill someone, he noted, sliding a plate of perfectly prepared eggs toward her. I want to take everything, she said. Good. Because today, we start with their pride. He handed her a tablet. The Mensah charity gala is in 3 weeks. It's where they plan to announce Fazle's engagement to Melissa. We are going to attend. As what? As the primary donors, Dae-hyun smiled. I've just bought the naming rights to the hospital wing they're dedicated to. They'll have to invite us. They'll have to thank us. The next 3 weeks were a blur of training. Dae-hyun didn't just give her money, he gave her intelligence. He taught her how to read a balance sheet like a weapon. He taught her how to walk into a room and make the oxygen disappear. And in the quiet moments, the romance began to simmer. One night, while working over blueprints, their hands brushed. Zara didn't pull away. Why me, Dae-hyun? She asked. Truly. You could have any woman. He looked at her, his gaze intense. Because you build things to last, Zara. I've spent my life destroying things. I wanted to see if someone like you could teach me how to build a home. The night before the gala, a package arrived for Zara. It was a dress made of liquid gold sequins. But inside the box was a note, written in blood-red ink, stay away from the gala, or the Ghost King won't be the only one who disappears. You're not going, Dae-hyun said, his voice a low growl as he looked at the threat. My security team says it's a localized gang Victoria uses for intimidation. I am an architect, Dae-hyun, Zara said, stepping into the gold dress. It hugged every curve, her skin glowing against the metallic fabric. I don't hide in the basements of the buildings I create. I stand on the roof. Dae-hyun looked at her, and for the first time, the Ghost King looked completely disarmed. He walked over and fastened a necklace of sapphires around her neck. His fingers lingered on her skin, sending shivers down her spine. Then we go together, he whispered. And I pity anyone who tries to stop you. The gala was the social event of the year. The Mensahs were beaming, Victoria Park was holding court, and Fazle was looking smug with Melissa on his arm. The double doors opened. The music didn't just stop, it died. Zara walked in, her head held high, her hand tucked into the crook of Dae-hyun's arm. She looked like a goddess of war. Samuel Mensah's glass shattered on the floor, a poetic echo of Zara's heartbreak weeks prior. He rushed over, his face purple. Dae-hyun. What is this? This girl, she's a trespasser. Security. Dae-hyun didn't move. He simply looked at the security guard, who immediately stepped back, recognizing the man who paid his secret bonuses. Careful, brother, Dae-hyun said, his voice echoing in the ballroom. You're speaking to the majority shareholder of Mensah Real Estate. And more importantly, he pulled Zara flush against him, his hand firm and protective on her waist. You're speaking to my wife. Your new boss. Fazle stepped forward, his face pale. Wife? Zara, you can't, he's a monster. He's using you. Zara smiled, leaning into Daehyun. Actually, Fazle, we're using you. Check your email. The $50 million Victoria gave you? It was routed through a shell company owned by Aegis Global. You didn't marry into the Park family, you just sold your soul to my husband. The fallout was glorious. Victoria Park realized she had been outplayed. Daehyun had used her own greed to trap the Mensahs in a debt they could never repay. As the guests whispered and cameras flashed, Zara walked up to Fazle. She leaned in close, just as he had done to her so many times. You told me beauty doesn't pay debts, she whispered. But you forgot one thing, Fazle. I don't just have beauty. I have the blueprints to your destruction. She turned and walked out of the gala, not looking back. In the back of the Maybach, the adrenaline finally faded. Zara looked at the black diamond on her finger. What now? She asked. The contract is fulfilled. They're ruined. Daehyun looked at her. The coldness was gone, replaced by a vulnerability that made her heart ache. The contract says 1 year. But I find myself wishing it was a lifetime. Zara reached out, cupping his face. I told you I had conditions, Daehyun. Name them, he said, breathless. First, she said, leaning in until their lips were inches apart. You stop being a ghost. And second, you let me build us a house that isn't made of cards. Daehyun didn't wait for her to beg. He pulled her into a kiss that burned away the last remnants of her past. The midnight contract was over, but their story was just beginning. As the car pulled away, Zara's phone buzzed. An alert from her firm, anonymous deposit of $500 million received. Project, the Baloyi Empire, initiated. She wasn't just an architect anymore. She was the queen of the shadows.